Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avenger.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
The rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirt bags off these trees.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Guarding light in secret places, betrayed, broken, torn apart. Still the vow burns in the heart. Hidden voices, quiet prayer, scattered seeds still waiting there. In the shadows, time stood still, but the mission holds it always will. Nothing can stop what is coming. The fire, the thunder.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh. Welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. I hope everybody is doing well out there and having a great start to their 2026. We are there, January 1st, 2026. And this is going to be a year unlike probably any year that we've ever experienced before in our lives. I mean, I think we all feel it. We all know it. I saw Terry Beatley over there saying, I'm excited to hear what your New Year's message is going to be. Well, my New Year's message is going to be that we have less than 12 months to save America. That's it. I mean, that's the message, is we are in the 250th anniversary of the birth of our nation, when our founding fathers on July 4th, 1776, signed the Declaration of Independence, declaring that they were no longer going to be the victims of a tyrant, of an oppressive state, of a bank and a king working together to push people down into the dirt and have control over them. This is the 250th anniversary. We have less than, I would say, 6 months maximum to see total finality to the retribution that we've all been waiting for, the justice that we've been waiting for. And the reason I give it a 6 months, I mean, listen, there's plausible ideas of how this could go into the midterms. Excuse me. But you have to have movement before that. And I know some people are saying, why does he got paint on his hat? You don't understand how special this hat is to me. This hat right here, if you can see the brim, this hat was the first hat I got when I walked on board the USS Rents FFG 46. That paint is actually from FFG 46, from when I served on board it. And so, yeah, I found it like in an old sea bag, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to wash it. I washed it. Now I'm wearing it. I have two of them, and this is the first one I actually got. So special hat for me, but it means it's go time. Go time. We have less than 12 months. We have probably till, I would say, at minimum, September, September 2026 to make shit happen. And here's the thing, is we the people, we are being verbal. We are being vocal about this. We are rising up and saying, hey, you got to do something here. We want to see justice. Poking the thing, going anytime now. But, I go on X and I see tons of different people and their opinions and their rhetoric, and hey, Trump needs to do something. Trump's compromised. Trump is, backing out against the Patriots. He's betraying everybody. I hear all this stuff. And at the end of the day, one thing that we have to understand about Donald Trump is that, number one, is he's a highly intelligent human being. He knows what he's doing at a very high level and degree. And I've explained this before, right? That when we start to put ourselves in the mindset of Donald Trump, you're talking about a man who, for the last 50 years of his life, has danced with the devil, if you want to say that. He has operated within New York City's real estate empire. He's built massive buildings. What does it take to work with that? Well, number one is you have to be in good with politicians. You have to be in good with the mob, with illicit crime activities. You have to be in good with the bankers. He knows these people inside and out. Now, to think that Donald Trump, after the last decade of being persecuted, the lawfare waged on him, is just going to roll over and just let it happen and say, you know what? We're going to give you guys a pass. Let's just make America great again. I don't see it. I don't see it. And to think that and listen, I 100% are calling for Susie Wiles, Pam Bondi, John Ratcliffe to be removed. I've been saying that for a while. Now, do I believe that there is something else going on here with them? Yes, I do. And I've been kind of not confusingly talking about this, but I've talked about this at length on the show. But to think that these people just go in there and they say, President Trump, you're not doing that. President Trump, no, you can't do that. Or we're going to withhold this information from President Trump. And then he finds out they withhold the information from him. and he doesn't do anything. That's not Donald Trump. That's just not how that man operates. And so when we start to look at this from kind of a 40,000 foot view, we have to understand that this man has a plan. This man is orchestrating his plan through extreme methodical control. That everything that we're seeing happen is what he wants to happen. Now, I agree that the division within MAGA is meant to happen, that this needed to happen. I believe that Vanity Fair article on Susie Wiles, that Donald Trump is the one that introduced Susie Wiles to that. And that was either intentional, as in Susie went out there and basically was propagating this whole concocted story, or Trump knew she would burn herself. Trump knew that if he introduced her to Vanity Fair would take her down for him, which they kind of have. So we have to start looking at this in the context of mass psychological warfare. I talked about in my last show. It was a 2025 PSYOP. And 2025 was absolutely a psychological warfare operation. I mean, you go on X, Facebook, you go on TikTok, you go on any of these platforms. It is nothing more than just Alice in Wonderland techniques and psychological warfare back and forth. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight with what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, Europe, and the United States, with a new hit piece article from the New York Times about the CIA and Trump trying to assassinate Putin. This is just nonsense, but people believe it. People eat it up, and people take that and they run with it. Now, I was just talking, we're in the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, and Trump and his administration have a lot planned. And yes, I'm going to talk about General Flynn and his interview yesterday with Alex Jones and what they were talking about. I'll talk a lot about that today too. Just a few different things. Tonight, after this show at 10 p.m. Eastern time, we do have our live Q&A. So our live Q&A is right after this show, the first one of the year. But to get into that live Q&A, you got to be a premium subscriber. It's $5 a month on any of the platforms, and any of our platforms, x.com, socialredpill.com, redpillproject.substack.com, or redpillproject.locals.com. And you can find all that information. I'll give you guys more of that information here towards the end of the show. Just a reminder. That will be after this show, about 10 p.m. Eastern time. So I got an hour to get through a lot of stuff, but we can do it. We've done it before. So Freedom 250 kicks off massive year-long party for America's 250th birthday. As 2026 gets underway, the White House and Freedom 250 folks are rolling out stacked lineup of signature events to mark the nation's semi-quincentennial. It all ties into celebrating 250 years since the Declaration of Independence, with a heavy patriotic vibe ongoing in the Freedom 250 Trail to Independence Tour, hitting spots nationwide. May 17th brings the One Nation Under God prayer gathering on the National Mall, Memorial Day observance at Arlington on the 25th. June 25th, host the Great American State Fair right in D.C., another World Fair. July 1st opens the Teddy Roosevelt Presidential Library in Medora, North Dakota. And then July 3rd has the Sail Forth 250 Parade of Tall Ships and Naval Review in New York Harbor. That's going to be pretty huge. The big one, July 4th, fireworks extravaganza on the mall for an official 250th bash. I am planning on being there. I don't know about you, but 4th of July, I typically go out to New York with my family, but I think that I'm going to try to get my family out to Washington, D.C. for this celebration. So I'm trying to plan that and organize that. We'll see, but I think we can do it. Wrapping fall with the Patriot Games, kicked off with the New Year's lights on the Washington Monument, and red, white, and blue Times Square ball drop. So there's a massive amount of events that are coming. The events that we're seeing so far, kind of underwhelming. No offense. You know, if we're gonna celebrate this shit, let's celebrate this shit. Every damn state should be celebrating. You know, every state should be out there celebrating this. We should have massive amounts of celebrations sponsored by the federal government in each state. That's my thought. But we're looking at about 8 different events throughout the year, which they have. And the July 3rd, 250th Parade of Tall Ships and International Naval Review, that's going to be pretty cool. But, you know, I'm pretty sure they have more in store. So we will keep you guys updated on what they're going to put on that. I think the World Fair, the US Fair thing is gonna be really cool. And if it's just rides and amusement games, it's gonna be shit. It needs to be like a CE event where you have massive amounts of technology on display and all this cool stuff, a futuristic viewpoint. At least that's my opinion. All right. I wrote this post the other day. I talked about it on DEF CON the other night. I got to talk about it tonight because I think that this post is really important. And this is a great message actually moving into 2026 because I'm not racist. I'm not cruel. I'm not mean. But this post, I think, is definitely going to resonate with a lot of people. Now, listen up, America. The Somali Cup corruption is just the tip of the iceberg. More and more rampant fraud will be discovered and even worse things. We're already finding this right now. California, Washington, Ohio, it's everywhere. This wasn't about making money. That's the one thing that I think a lot of people kind of on X are like, it's all about the money. No. It wasn't about making money. It was about destroying America. Here's a reality check. We are not the same country we were 142 years ago. America once needed immigrants. Now in 2025, we don't. This is not cruel or racist. It's just the facts. In 1883, when Emma Lazarus wrote, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free," America was barely 100 years old. The country was still building its infrastructure, its economy, and its identity. The labor force was needed to help build the nation, and immigrants were essential to that mission. They came in waves, offering their hard work, their skills, and their dreams. And America was better for it. Fast forward to today. America does not need immigrants in the same way anymore. The country's infrastructure is in place. Jobs that once relied on cheap immigrant labor have been replaced by automation, technology, and more educated workforce. We have an economic system that, for better or worse, has shifted. The idea of immigration as a cornerstone of America's growth has been warped and exploited. The system that once built America is now being used to tear it apart. It's no longer a mechanism for progress. It's a political weapon. What once fueled growth has been twisted into a political machine, exploited for votes, used to bypass the law and leveraged to fracture the nation. Immigration is no longer policy-driven. It's agenda-driven, with real costs to Americans. America doesn't need unchecked immigration. It needs a system that is unapologetically America first. A system that reflects American values, culture, and character, not one designed to serve political agendas or globalist fantasies of a one-world government. No American should apologize for putting America first or for recognizing that America no longer needs immigration the way it once did. This nation was built through sacrifice, hard work, and blood, and that legacy deserves protection, not political exploitation. If we allow immigration, it should be for the best of the best, fully vetted, law-abiding, and aligned with American values. Living in the United States is a privilege, not an entitlement. It must remain that way. This isn't about party lines. It's about sovereignty, responsibility, and protecting our future, our resources, and our way of life. The idea of America is way bigger than any ideology. And if we fail to defend it, we risk losing what made this nation the beacon of strength and hope. America first, always. Now, I say that for a reason. If you look over the last 10 years, the threat of sleeper cells within our states, moving into sanctuary cities, the radical ideologies that are pushed out there, the massive increase in violent crimes that have rampaged through our country over the last decade, the abhorrent amount of fraud and abuse of government grants, of government aid and subsidies paid to states, and then the states abusing those same systems within their own funds and financing. The rise of the power of NGOs. All of this aligns towards the exploitation of one system in the United States of America, immigration. Donald Trump, over the last year, has taken a hard stance on this. He has basically put out the Trump card. If you want to come to the United States of America and you want to come today, tomorrow, you have to buy $1 million card to get sponsored for this. It will speed up the process. Other than that, you have to wait in line with everybody else. But I think that there should be a quota. I think that they should say, hey, we're only taking in 500,000 people in the next 5 years. And that's it. That's the quota. And they're going to be vetted, every single one of them. Doesn't matter how much money you have. At least that's my thoughts. Guess we're lucky I'm not president. So as we come into 2026, the one thing that we have to understand is the preservation of culture and values. That is the integrity of what makes the United States the United States. And that must be preserved as much as anything else. And when it comes to immigration, that begins to fall off because you know it, I know it. We have immigrants coming into this country that are representing their own countries. And that's fine if they want to preserve their culture and their history, but don't come to the United States of America trying to be a United States citizen and have allegiances to other countries. Don't come here to the United States of America to exploit our systems and gain wealth by exploiting those systems. And this is what we've seen a lot of being uncovered here in Minnesota, where I actually live. And I've been talking about this for years. But it's not just Minnesota. It's every state. And if you understood the amount of money that is being moved through these fictitious businesses and these various different types of government programs, it's absurd. And over a decade, you can imagine that it's well in excess of $7 trillion. Yeah, it's that bad. The national debt that you're paying $1 trillion on with your taxpayer dollars every 3 months was to fund NGOs, radical leftist ideologies, the formation of a one world government, and immigrants to get rich, wealthy on your dime. That should piss off every American, and I'm sure it does. Now, moving into this, we're going to talk about the Minnesota stuff. We're going to talk about the Minnesota stuff here in a minute. I wanted to go over some things that we talked about on DEF CON. A White House video that they put out on December 30th, which starts off with hold the line. I just want to go over these real quick because I got thoughts and feelings that, well, we could see some shit happen here. I hope we could see some shit happen here. At least this is the signs and indications that they're giving us. Now, if this is all nothing but hoopla and hope and just a marketing ploy towards the Anon community, shame on you guys. But if this is legitimate and real, if they're telling us, hey, we got a plan, relax. Okay, let's see it.
Hold the line. Stay with me. Brothers, what we do in life echoes in eternity.
Strengthen on, strengthen on. At my signal, unleash hell.
And you get a sign there of military. Military is the only way. So kind of interesting. It is definitely a message directed towards Anons. The first part, hold the line. Q4714, hold the line, riders, justice is coming. I mean, with all the rhetoric coming out and everybody talking about, hey, we need to see accountability. This was a great message by the Trump admin and the White House. Say, hold the line, justice is coming. We know what we're doing. Okay. And then at my signal, unleash hell. Now, interesting enough, that is also in the Q boards, Q4211. We are ready to unleash hell. Memes ready, Q. Excuse me. And by the way, that one comes with a picture of Barack Obama on the boards. So we could be there. We could be ready to see retribution and justice come. Now, I hope so. But here's the thing, and I've learned this over the years, that hope doesn't pay the bills. This is a hopium-free broadcast. So being the people that we are, being the information that we've went over the last few years, we need to be ready for everything and anything. We need to be ready that, hey, look, the Trump administration unseals massive amounts of indictments, and the deep state is getting perp walked down the street by the DOJ, by the FBI, and it's actually happening. That's going to be a glorious day. We also got to be prepared that, hey, they just went after the low-hanging fruit and they didn't do anything. They didn't go after the big players and the big actors. We also got to be ready for, they didn't do anything. They let them go. Now, two of those scenarios ends up in civil war. It's not me who's going to start it, not me saying it. I'm just telling you, two of those scenarios ends up in civil war, because by the time the end of the year rolls around, if you don't have accountability for the last 10 years of crimes, corruptions, treason, and sedition by the midterms, the majority of MAGA and America First are done. They're done questioning. They're done asking. They're done saying anything nicely. And do you think that we're going to want to vote for more America First candidates? Fuck no. They're not going to want to vote at all, especially when our election systems are still broken. And so you usher in what many from the deep state and the globalists have been saying, that the 2024 election will ultimately lead to civil war. Now, why do I think that? Because I think that there are a lot of patriots in the world, in this country. And I think that we've all had it up to here of the uncovering of abuse and treason and sedition, of watching it still occur and happen. And we want accountability. We want to see people held accountable. And I don't want to see, and let me correct myself here, because I know that this is, there's pundits out there to be like, but Josh, they arrested 97 people in Minnesota. Yeah, they arrested 97 Somalis in Minnesota who were put up to this, who were giving billions of dollars of kickbacks back to the Democrats, but the politicians allow this to happen. Start arresting fucking politicians, or this is never going to change. Start arresting the people who allowed this to happen, who knew this was going to happen, who planned this to happen. The banks, the people with money, the NGOs, the politicians. We want to see them held accountable for their actions. And I don't want to see a bank who's been involved in criminal activity, money laundering, or drug trafficking, human trafficking, get fined $1 billion. No, I want you to go in there and I want you to arrest their board of directors. I want you to arrest all the executive department that knew that shit was going on. And I want you to throw them in jail for a very long time. I want you to go to the governor's mansion here in Minnesota. I want you to walk in, arrest Tim Walz and pull him out, perp walk him, and put him in a federal penitentiary. I want to see Barack Obama, James Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Clinton. I want to see them perp walked because they committed treason against this country. It wasn't just on Donald Trump. It was against this country. Until these types of people are arrested, we're not only withholding our taxes, we're withholding our votes. And I think that that's more important. Maybe we have the wrong idea with everybody saying we need a great 2026 tax protest. No, how about this? We put out the great 2026 vote protest. You can endorse all the candidates you want. We're voting for the other Republican guy. I bet you that would get some arrests to happen real fast. Now, do I think that Donald Trump is going to follow through? I do. I don't believe that Donald Trump is a controlled opposition. I don't believe he's compromised. I went on my Israel spiel the other day, right? The idea that Donald Trump is controlled by Israel, it's just lost in logic. It's just not rational. If you look at Benjamin Netanyahu, this man's days are numbered. The only reason why Netanyahu still has power in Israel is because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump holds all the cards over Israel. Now, many people are talking about Trump's Truth Social post. And we cover this just a little bit in DEF CON, but I'm going to cover it here too, because I think that this is important. There we are. Now, he says, windmills are killing all of our beautiful bald eagles. Well, that's a falcon. That's Israel. That's a windmill that has the number 13 on it. And there's a date there, 9/11, and it's actually 2017, which is cut off, which I find interesting because the 17 is the part that's cut off. So there's multiple indications that you get from this. I know Owen Schreier, he actually did a good breakdown of it symbolically, but there's a lot more to it if you understand the cue boards. Number one is you go to the timestamps of this on the cue boards, and it talks about justice is coming. And that's 544 or 1744. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. 544, and with the cue boards, we kind of go through hidden communications, right? Oh, with the cue boards, we come with Rockefeller, George Soros. We get a picture of George Soros with 544. And then with 1744, and this is the one that we covered on DEF CON, 1744, you get this one line. You get bottom, middle of the top, Hussein-Iran connection, bombs away, Merry Christmas. Now, there's a lot there, but why do we have a picture of Israel? Now, this is interesting. Israel, 13, Judas, right? Judas, but then 9/11. Well, on the cue boards, when you go to 9/11, September 11th, on the boards, you got to remember, they cut off the date, 2017. So it just says 9/17/20, right? 9/11/20. 9/11/20. That's 2020. Now, think about that. On the cue boards, you have John Brennan, James Comey in the formation of the Twin Towers. Now, if you remember, James Comey at the time of September 11th was a U.S. attorney at the Eastern District of Virginia who was investigating massive amounts of Saudi money moving in and out of the United States and for foreign terrorist organizations. On January 1st, 2002, he moved to the Southern District of New York and actually took over the case as a U.S. attorney of September 11th. So if you wanted a guy to cover it up, James Comey was your guy. Now, John Brennan, if you remember, was the Riyadh station chief in 1998 that approved the passports of the 18 hijackers to come to the United States of America. And I know it wasn't 18 hijackers who led the planes into New York City, but they needed a cover story, and this was part of that larger cover story. So Brennan and Comey are directly correlated to September 11th. Now, who helped them do it? I believe it was Brown and Associates, which was an Israeli security company, which was owned partially by a Bush family member, if I serve correct. And yeah, Israel had a lot to do with this. Now, is this what Trump's signifying? I do believe it is. And I think that it's pointing towards Comey and Brennan, specifically Brennan. I believe Brennan is the next domino of the fall. I think Brennan is going to be indicted probably, I would say, within the next, I've been saying this for fucking months now, but in the next few weeks, I think that we could easily see John Brennan indicted. And I think that that's what Trump was hinting towards right there. Because if you imagine John Brennan gets indicted and then he's getting asked questions about all of this, he gets interrogated on this. What happens when he starts throwing people under the bus? I found this interesting. I had to pull this up because it's something that we've talked about for a very long time on this show, and it's great to get vindicated in your research and your information. Obviously, I'm not getting any credit for this whatsoever, but Mike Benz exposes Jeffrey Epstein was given a position at Bear Stearns. His job was complex transactions. He was handling, ready for it, handling CIA's disguising illegal weapon sales as complex financial transactions for commodities or oil in the Middle East. So Jeffrey Epstein was a financial handler for intelligence agencies to run illicit crime organizations. Ta-da! Been saying that for years. All right. General Flynn today on X. Let's see what he has to say here. He says, pray the administration and Congress are listening to real James Woods. 2026 can be a really good year, but if recent history is a teacher, we're in real trouble. President Trump, instead of make America great again, why not make accountability great again? And James Woods says here, Republicans have the presidency, the Supreme Court, and the House and the Senate, and yet we don't have a voter ID law. Not a single crooked Democrat has been jailed, censored, impeached, or expelled. Taxpayers are being defrauded by the billions, and Republicans do nothing. Well, James, I can tell you, it's because Republicans are in on it. Republicans are part of the same system. And what you've seen through the neocon agenda was trying to organize themselves in positions with MAGA and America First to try to regain the power that they lost when Obama came in. And so they want the system intact so they can hijack it and utilize it for their own power and corruption. That's why. And Congress is controlled. Congress is massively controlled. We need to vote all of them out and put new people in. That's really what needs to happen. And by the way, U.S. Navy Vet 1990 says this on X. Maybe on January 6th. Wouldn't that be epic? Wouldn't that be just absolutely epic? That on Tuesday, January 6th, 2026, 5 years to the date of the Fedsurrection, unsealed indictments happen, and we see mass arrests. I want to give a shout out real quick to my good friend Jim Price. I heard that he was in the hospital. I think I don't know what happened necessarily. He had a fall. He punctured his lung and stuff. So everybody say some prayers for Jim Price. And if you know him, give him a call. Hope that he's okay out there. I just saw that come up. So, man, Jim, hope you're doing well, buddy. All right. Let's keep on going here. Hold on. I got to wet my whistle here. All right. Few different things. Is this a transition point? It's kind of a transitional point. Not a really big transitional point, but we'll save all this. Yeah, we can do this one. We're gonna do just a quick ad real quick for 1775 coffee, and then we're gonna get right back into the next transition point. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped in only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic, a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler, not stumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold Beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. And you got to go into Rumble to go ahead and get that. And you'll see the links in there once you get in there. All right. Real America's Voice posted this today, or posted it 2 days ago. I don't know why. It's kind of interesting. But we got to remember there's levels of coordination in here. Trump on FBI grand conspiracy probe. It deserves to be done. POTUS says he's happy the FBI has opened a grand conspiracy case on decades-long weaponization. It was a disgrace what happened. Our voting has to be straightened out. Now, they this video from 7/16/25, July 16th, 2025.
Sir, I want to dive into something we confirmed earlier this week. The FBI under Cash Patel has opened a grand conspiracy case looking at the last decade of weaponization against you and the protection of Democrats like Hunter Biden and Hillary Clinton as one ongoing criminal conspiracy. I want to ask what you think of that approach and whether you think a special prosecutor might be warranted.
Well, I'm happy that they did that. I don't know much about it, but it deserves to be done. It was a disgrace what happened. And what happened in 2016 and what happened in 2020. It's a disgraceful situation, and our voting has to be straightened out. I always say, if you don't have borders, if you don't have fair and free voting, you don't have a country. And we have disgraceful voting that they spend all of this money on voting, and some of the votes don't come back for weeks later. The whole thing it's a scam, and
Well, he's right. It definitely is a scam there. So I found this interesting because Real America's Voice is reposting this. And, they're talking, they posted this on December 31st, 2025. And they're posting this as if this is modern. This is now. But this was 6 months ago. This was in July. But I think it's a subtle hint and reminder. So it comes at the same time that they posted this one, which John Solomon is talking with Cash Patel about the same topic.
Last question. All the things that you've seen, all the weaponization you've uncovered since you came in and found these secret files or restricted files, all those things, beyond those who are already charged, do you think you've seen other crimes that might eventually get referred to justice?
Yes, we are looking at so many different leads on criminal activity by those who are in positions of power. And we're not going to stop until every single one of those is fully exposed. The documents are provided either to Congress or the courts of law, and make every referral we can to the Department of Justice. These indictments that you've seen and the ones that you're going to see coming up here in this near future are just the beginning. But I have to remind the audience one thing. Everybody's like, it's 7 months. What have you guys been doing?
Yeah.
Well, they spent 20 years building this disease temple of corruption. It takes a little bit of time to defeat it and beat it down. And I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to look at the work the men and women of the FBI have done so far in these 7-8 months and just imagine what we're going to do come the year end.
The FBI looks a lot more.
The year has ended, Cash. But that also tells you that there's probably, so this is my thoughts on the FBI investigation, okay? So we know that there's a grand conspiracy investigation going on. There's 4 grand juries compiled: Florida, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and New York. We've heard nothing from New York and Pennsylvania. The grand jury in Virginia is the one that originally indicted Comey. That got overturned, which I kind of called would be overturned because I think Comey is one of the people that blew the whistle. And Florida has yet to issue any indictments. Now, with what Cash Patel is saying, is that we're talking about 20 years of corruption. I want to go back because this is important when he says this.
We are looking at so many different leads on criminal activity by those who are in positions of power. And we're not going to stop until every single one of those is fully exposed. The documents are provided either to Congress or the courts of law, and make every referral we can to the Department of Justice. These indictments that you've seen and the ones that you're going to see coming up here in this near future are just the beginning. But I have to remind the audience one thing. Everybody's like, it's 7 months. What have you guys been doing?
Yeah.
Well, they spent 20 years building this disease temple of corruption. It takes a little bit of time.
20 years. Why is that number so important? Because that takes us back to the Barack Obama White House. You remember when I was talking about FISA equals the start, and this is kind of where all the various different grand juries are focused on, the foundation think layers that Yes, it goes forward. It goes to 2018. It goes to 2020. It goes to January 6th. It goes to COVID. It goes to 2024 election. But you also go backwards. You go to Benghazi. You go into Libya. You go to Ukraine, 2014. It goes into the Uranium One scandal. It goes to Barack Obama giving pallets of cash to Iran. It ties all of this together. So what Cash Patel told us back there about a month ago was that we're not just looking at recent crime and corruption. We're not just looking at the things that they've been doing between 2020 and 2024. We're not just looking at what happened from FISA-gate and FISA-gate to COVID and the stolen election. We're looking at the last 20 years. You got to remember, they keep on saying an ongoing criminal conspiracy to treason against our country. Trump has said it's treason. So when we start to look at it from that angle, it makes a lot more sense that why this could take a lot longer. I see that. I do. I see it. But we got to move. We got to get people back on board. We got to get that morale back on board to where it needs to be. So General Flynn issued a wake-up call on Alex Jones yesterday, issuing an emergency message to President Trump, calling for the formation of a task force to work out of Florida that he would happily serve on. And the task force is to basically go out there and uncover the crimes and begin prosecuting people, subpoena people, and start prosecuting them. Now, do I think that this is going to happen? I don't. I think what it is General Flynn is riling up the troops. I think that it is a general calling for direct action and conflict. He is saying, hey, we got to move now. We need to get these things done. And it's rallying up the people behind that cause to get voter ID, to get the voting machines off the block for the next election. It's getting these criminal indictments released and sped up, because we know that if we left it to the DOJ, they would drag their feet. The FBI can only do so much, but it's Pam Bondi and the DOJ and people like Todd Blanche that actually got to move on these indictments, and they have basically full approval to say yes or no on them. And so if we have corrupt or compromised people in the DOJ, or maybe a chief of staff who's wanting to protect certain political figures, then, well, we got to take a different angle of approach. And I think that that's what you're seeing right now. The information war is being utilized against the Trump administration because you have to apply the direct pressure at the right times in order to get the results that you need. I think Flynn is working directly with Trump. I think that there is direct coordination from Flynn. If Flynn has said multiple different times, I can call President Trump if I wanted to. We've seen the coordination between Flynn and Trump. So whatever Flynn is doing right now is because Trump is asking him to. So Trump needs you and me to go out there and call for accountability, a call for arrest, to go out there and say we're going to do a tax protest, to go out there and begin researching and digging up and call for these task forces to be developed. Because if the people do not assert their voice and their power, government will willfully do it for them. It goes back to something we talked about a few weeks ago. You got to remember, there is a fourth branch of government. It's not the lobby. It's not transnational corporations. It's the American people. And the fourth branch of government is the most powerful branch of government. It is the voice of a unified populace that looks at Washington, D.C. and says, I'm not asking, I'm telling, do this and do it now. And Washington goes, get out of here, like they've done the last 20 years. And then the people go, not this time. And see, we have that power. We have that power right now. And what you're seeing is the reasserting of the American will, of the American voice coming together, driving us to that precipice moment to where we are putting that direct pressure on the Trump administration and the Trump DOJ to where they have to do their job. I'll be honest with you. MAGA wants blood. MAGA wants these motherfuckers perp walked. Metaphorically speaking there. Symbolic. Metaphorically speaking. Want blood. Okay. What I'm saying is We want arrests. We want perp walks. We want these people held accountable. And we're not going to settle until it happens. The DOJ, they don't give a shit. The DOJ, do you think they want to go arrest their own kind? What precedent does that set? Do you think that the Republicans and Democrats in the House and in the Senate want their own kind arrested? No. Well, what does that do? That sets a precedent for future allegations and crimes of which they've all committed. You know, the most staunch Republican congressman out there doesn't want to see Barack Obama or John Brennan get arrested. The reason is because if the former president is getting arrested for what he did in his position of power, what could happen to me is what that Republican's thinking. Those DOJ officials, when they start seeing Christopher Wray or James Comey get arrested, you know what they think? Or Merrick Garland get indicted? You know what they think? That can happen to me. That's a dangerous precedent. But it's a precedent that the American people are demanding, and we have to continue to demand it. We have to continue to rise our voices up and say, hey, you need to do this shit. And if you don't do this shit, we're going to remove you and put someone in that does. And see, that's the power that Trump has. Trump can go in there and remove Pam Bondi. He can remove Susie Wiles. He can remove the gatekeepers and the people who are holding all of this back. The question is, why hasn't he? Maybe because we're not at that precipice moment yet. Maybe because the American people just aren't loud enough yet. I don't know. We're pretty damn loud. Minnesota state government is very clearly corrupt, selling out real Americans. Osmongold continued his scathing commentary on Minnesota fraud scandal, this time targeting the institutions that let it happen. What happens when the institutions of enforcement are compromised? And they are compromised. They're absolutely compromised. We need federal investigation on Biden's DOJ prosecuting some of these cases. Great. They should have done it a lot more. They didn't. I wonder why. So the Minnesota government is probably one of the most corrupt governments in the country. And they just did $1 billion property tax raise over this last year. And why? To pay for the rampant corruption. Because they are producing nothing more than radical lefty policies in the state of Minnesota. Do I support Mike Lindell for governor of Minnesota? I think Mike Lindell would be one hell of a governor for Minnesota, and I think he's a hell of a lot better than Tim Walz, and I think he has a really good chance of getting elected. Now, Scott Jensen, I also know, is potentially running for governor. Now, if Scott Jensen and Tim Walz came together and ran for governor of Minnesota, they would probably win. We'll see. Now, if we can win Minnesota, we can turn Minnesota red, man, it's going to be a great state to live in, which I live in it, except for the coldness. It's like 10 degrees outside right now. The Trump administration is gearing up to freeze childcare subsidies to all states rather than just Minnesota. States will be required to prove fraud is not occurring before payments are resumed. This is actually pretty genius. So this basically comes out of Doge, but the idea is pretty simple. And this is something that we talked about a year ago when the Trump administration came in and Doge started doing the work. We said, listen, instead of uncovering the fraud and then defunding it, how about you defund all of these programs and then say, hey, once you come back to us and say, hey, our funding was defunded, how do we get it back? And you say, oh, all you have to do is go through this review process to where we go in there, we make sure that you're not corrupt and abusing the funds, and then you can have it back. It's pretty damn genius. Well, that's what the Trump administration is gearing up to do, and they're going to do it throughout all of the 50 states. We don't need to spend too much time on Minnesota, but $35 million in political donations from Minnesota Somali fraudsters daycares. That's just from the daycares. $35 million in political donations to where? Left-wing, radical lefty candidates. Not one Republican received a penny. I wonder why. And I wonder how, I wonder how these small little daycares knew which political campaigns to support Because the odds that every single Somali daycare in Minnesota is ran by Democrats, that's just uncanny. It's an improbability. There had to be one Republican in there. Nope. 35 million, all the Democrats. All right. This is the conversation that we all want to talk about. Oh my God. We got to get going here. I guess I couldn't do it all in an hour. Mario Newall put this out there after interviewing a former CIA guy. Well, the Pentagon paused Ukraine. The CIA ran the war. Publicly, Washington hesitated. Quietly, Langley went to work. According to a New York Times investigation, U.S. military aid to Ukraine froze in March 2025 after Trump ordered a halt. Weapons stalled, intelligence sharing slowed, and the Pentagon pulled back. The CIA didn't. Granted a carve-out, the agency warned the White House that a full cutout would endanger American officers already inside Ukraine. Exemptions approved. Officers' operations continued. They escalated covertly with ATACMS and strikes off the table. The CIA pivoted to Ukraine-built drones supplying targeting intelligence that hit the Russian war economy, oil refineries, explosive chemical plants, and Moscow's shadow oil fleet. So this New York Times article is a doozy. Anonymous sources, by the way, all anonymous sources, but they claim that the CIA is who is actually attacking Russia and trying to kill Putin, and Trump knew about it. Now, this is being propagated out on X massively. This is like every other post I saw today. And I went and clicked on every big account that was pushing this out today. Sure enough, they're all located in Europe and Eastern Europe. Europe and Eastern Europe. They're trying to say that Donald Trump was briefed by Ratcliffe on all of this. That Donald Trump knew the CIA was going to attempt an assassination on Vladimir Putin with drones. By the way, the absurdity of the drone strike on a residence of Vladimir Putin that he has not lived in or been to in over a decade. What? And what happens? Ukraine gets blamed. Russia says we know who did it. Not only does Russia know who did it, is that the data extracted from the Ukrainian UAV shot down over Novgorod region on December 29th shows a facility of the Russian president's residence was the target. So what you're seeing now is there's a few different points to this. Russian lied about the Ukrainian strike on Putin's residence, according to Colonel Daniel Davis, CIA. So basically, CIA agents are saying, no. This was actually targeting a missile base near Putin's residence, and this one just veered off track. The CIA was involved in this. Trump was not, but it was in coordination with MI6. And I think that is the key point to understand here, is that they tried to make it appear as if there was an assassination attempt on Putin. Now, why would they do this? Was this Trump? No, this was not Trump. Trump has good relations with Russia. He's talking to Vladimir Putin almost every day. Why would he risk it? You got to look at this in the context of like rationalism, logical rationalism, and then wartime strategy. Who benefits from an attempted assassination attempt on Putin's life? Or even the removal of Vladimir Putin? That's nuclear war. That's World War III. The risks are just way too high. Now, does Russia benefit from this? Yeah, actually. If Russia faked an assassination attempt by doing that UAV drone, yeah, they actually do benefit. But here's the thing, is we got intelligence that actually says that it was Ukraine who launched it. So we know it wasn't Russia. So does it benefit Ukraine? Yeah. But who does it benefit more? Europe, the EU, Britain. The same Britain that sent the Storm Shadow missiles into Russia, hitting the oil refineries. It wasn't the CIA that did this. It was Europe. It was NATO. Zelensky's former top advisor, Versicolor, argues that Ukraine's NATO-backed strike on Putin's residence also targeted a Russian nuclear command center. The Russian nuclear doctrine thus authorizes a nuclear response. And let's play this. You're going to see the subtitles. But this is Zelensky's former advisor. Okay? Listen to what he says, because he's going to confirm to you what I just told you.
Западных стран говорят следующее. По их информации, удар был. Раз. Это не я утверждаю. Это они говорят. Второе. Это была не просто резиденция. Это специальный объект Российской Федерации, предназначенный для управления вооруженными силами Российской Федерации в случае ядерной войны. То есть по значению это как если бы кто-то атаковал борт номер 1, президентский самолет США. Это спецобъект, это целый город с наружными сооружениями, подземными сооружениями и там всякими узлами связи. По информации таксистов западных, летели дроны, 91 или 91, никто не знает, 2 или 3, но летели они, скорее всего, по узлам связи, они уточняют эту информацию и не долетели, прямо скажем. Но удар был. Почему россияне глубоко возмущены? Ну, потому что это удар по центру управления ядерной триадой и вообще вооруженными силами Российской Федерации в особый период, в период крупномасштабной войны ядерной и так далее. То есть это покушение святая на святых, и согласно российской ядерной доктрине, да и ядерной доктрине любого государства, имеющего ядерное оружие, это повод для ядерного ответа. И его они не будут бить тактическим ядерным оружием, это резкая эскалация, смена всей международной рамки. Это не...
Okay, so if you're reading the subtitles, I'll give you a summarization. Zelensky's former top advisor is saying that Ukraine's NATO-backed, Western-backed, not U.S., but Europe, Britain-backed strike on Putin's residence wasn't on Putin's residence at all. It was actually on Russia's nuclear command center, which is underneath that area. And that from Russia's point of view, this is part of the Russian nuclear doctrine that authorizes a nuclear response. In other words, pull this together. Putin comes out and says, hey, they tried to attack a house I've never been to a house I haven't been to in 10 years and assassinate me. And Russia looks at this as a terrorist attack. Now, Russia can't come out and say that, hey, they really attacked one of our nuclear response command centers, which is part of our nuclear triad. He can't say that. So he comes out and says, oh, this is a Putin residence that I haven't been to in 10 years. Well, nobody's going to launch an attempted assassination attempt on Vladimir Putin at a place he hasn't been in 10 years. But then what do we learn? The New York Times article comes out today and says that, well, yeah, you know who did that attack? It was the CIA, and Trump knew about it. But then Putin comes out and says, but we know who did it because we have the command module from the UAV and we know who programmed it. And he handed that over today to who? The Americans. See, if Putin believed Trump was involved and the CIA is what did this op, he wouldn't be handing the evidence over to the Americans. He wouldn't be handing the evidence over to Trump's delegation, saying, hey, this is who did it. In other words, what you just saw here. Britain, MI6, Merz, Macron, all of these guys, Europe, just tried to spark nuclear war with Russia and blame it on the CIA and Donald Trump. They want to break up relationships between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump because it's not good for them. They do not benefit at all from any of that. The end of the Ukraine war kills, crashes, and crushes the European Union and everything that Europe has worked for over the last 5 years of the destabilization of Russia. What Europe would really like, what the European Union would absolutely love, is they want Putin out of the way. They want Russia more unified with a centralized Europe so they can go in there and their banks and their conglomerates and their private organizations and intelligence agencies can get into Russia like they've been trying to do for 100 years and finally take it over and control it. That's what they want. That's what this was all about. And it failed once again. FFG 46 for life, brother. And then today, so now this begins to make a lot more sense. So do you remember the other day when the Russia's mysterious doomsday radio started playing Swan Lake? Now, there's a repertoire of new emergency tones and occasional odd words regarded by many as coded alerts that are being broadcast through Russia's doomsday radio. Massive amounts of communications. Why? Because somebody attacked the Russian nuclear triad and they tried to spark nuclear war. And it sparked a response from Russia to go to full nuclear alert. And what happened the day after that? Russia attacks Kyiv. They're going to take out Zelensky. I've already talked about this. They're going to kill off Zelensky. And they're going to take Odessa. Because that's a bargaining chip that Europe would want, or that they would need against Europe, to basically an end-all of end-all. Remember, appear weak when really strong. That's what Putin has done immensely over the last 4 years. So Zelensky says Kyiv is discussing the possible presence of U.S. troops in Ukraine for security guarantees. That's just not going to happen. Russia is going to deny any type of security guarantees for Ukraine, unless it's Russian security guarantees. So the DOJ is now reviewing more than 5.2 million documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. So we found a million new documents, and there's 5.2 million being reviewed. You know what I say? That's going to take a decade for the DOJ to review. Just release them all and let anons and citizen journalists review them. We'll have it done in a week. Now, I guess I was a few months off on this, but it's pretty nice to be right about something. Iran chaos. Protesters storm governor's office. Crowds chant death to Khomeini as regime orders nationwide shutdown. Iran is grinding to a halt. Businesses, universities, government offices closed across 21 of the 31 provinces on Wednesday. We've had multiple IRGC soldiers dead and killed. The protests have stretched all the way across Iran over the last few days. You have Reza Pahlavi, the guy that I told you was being risen up as a replacement directly for Khomeini. The dawn of a new era in Iran is upon us as protests rage across the country. So this was the Crown Prince issued a New Year's message as Iran burns. The current regime has reached the end of the road as it stands, as its most fragile, weak, deeply divided, and unable to suppress the courage of a rising nation. To the international community, I call upon you to stand with the people of Iran, not only in words, but in action. Peace in the Middle East and stability across the world depend on a free Iran. The tide of history is turning. So I've talked about how Reza Pahlavi is controlled by Israel. We know this. Netanyahu visited Donald Trump the day before this color revolution began to occur. Now, I was saying that this color revolution was going to start, back in March and April. You remember this? You remember? Here it is. Here's the Substack article where I'm talking about exactly this, right? The silent Western coup of Iran, and it was all the opening salvo against China. And we go in this about the regime change in Iran that's going to happen. And do we bring in Reza? Do I have even Reza in this one? There's another one. I got another one that I wrote too that has Reza Pahlavi in there. And it talks about how Reza Pahlavi is being backed by Israel to be the next leader of Iran. And so we have the color revolution in full force and effect right now. And I think that we're going to see this actually happen. It'd be pretty crazy, pretty cool that we see a color revolution actually happen in a country that we want to see a color revolution actually happen in. All right. Let me do this real quick. Homie, don't play that. All right. We're going to go in here. Forget fireworks. The real light show may be America's nuclear rocket. While the world is busy counting down with champagne and drone shows, the U.S. government quietly lit something far brighter. The Department of Energy and NASA made it official. Nuclear thermal propulsion is no longer a science project. So this is really interesting. NASA and the DOE are working on nuclear propulsion technology that'll take us to Mars in just a few days. Yep, it's happening. So I love that because we've been talking about this trickle-down disclosure. We've been talking about new technology and development that's going to come out. And this one is a game changer for space travel. You're talking, if this could be implemented within 5 years, like they did with the nuclear reactor, you know, they talk about it and then 3 months later it's being implemented. If this can get implemented the next 5 years, in the next decade, space travel is going to be very common with this type of technology. That's pretty fucking cool. My last thoughts on Iran. We knew that this was going to happen. The idea is to westernize the Middle East, to kick the British out, British intelligence aspects out, and westernize the Middle East towards a U.S. Israel Western front. Now, Israel, I don't think that this is, I think Israel is controlled by Trump. My thoughts. You guys know these thoughts on it. Now, I am going to a live Q&A right after this, so I want to put this out there real quick. Tonight, live Q&A after the show. It's on Zoom. You can become a premium subscriber on any of our platforms, x.com, social, redpill.com, redpillproject.substack.com, or redpillproject.locals.com. How that works is right after the show, I'm going to grab the Zoom link. I'm going to put it out on all those platforms for all my premium subscribers, and then you can just join in the Zoom, and we'll see you there. So I'm heading over to there right about now, actually. And will there be a show tomorrow, Friday? Yep, I should. Oh, that's a crypto course. So if you guys are interested in a crypto course, right there, redpills.tv/course. It's a crypto course I created. 2026. We're going to talk about the economy a lot next week, about silver and everything like that. And silver did crash down. I told you to take profits. Now it's going to skyrocket back up. I think that we have some good potential for silver this year. We're going to talk about a lot of that next week with a lot of different things that I have coming up on the show next week. So heading over to the Q&A. So I hope everybody has a great night. I hope you guys can join me over there. Other than that, I will see you tomorrow. Yes, there will be a show. So much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. We'll see you next time.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns to silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Voice still calls, we the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening are served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a last prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time. There was a time. Now is the time. Do it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"